In this video, I will show you how to extract data from a pivot table and display it in a cell in the Excel worksheet. So sometimes the pivot table becomes so big that reading data from the pivot table becomes very difficult. So my objective here is to select the bank from the drop down here and select the month from drop down in B2 and display the corresponding amount from the pivot table. And if the month is empty, then against Federal Bank, it should display the row total against Federal Bank. That is, it should print 47210. And suppose if bank is empty and month is there, then it should print the column total under February. That is 59182. If both are empty, then it should display the grand total of the pivot table, which is 593914. So let us create a simple formula to print the value against Federal Bank for the month of February. So it is in 3283. It is in cell C12. So I am going to create a formula here that is equal to C12. So it prints 3283, which is correct against Federal Bank and February. But Federal Bank is currently against row 12. But when more data is added and pivot table is generated, then the row location of Federal Bank may change. So for example, if I sort the data Z to A. So now Federal Bank is at row 15 instead of 12. So our formula doesn't work. So it becomes 0. So we should find another way to locate values in a pivot table. So this pivot table is generated from this data, which has date, bank and amount. So I will create another formula. So equal to, I will click on this cell containing Federal Bank amount against February. Click on this, it automatically generated a formula and printed the value. So 3283. So now if I sort it Z to A, the value doesn't change because it has a formula. So irrespective of where Federal Bank is located, it still shows the correct value. Federal Bank has moved to row 15. So it still shows 3283. Let us understand this formula. So GETPIVOTDATA is a function, Excel function. So amount is the column name from which these values are printed. So $A5 is the location of the pivot table. It's the pivot table reference. The pivot table starts at cell A5. So that is what it. Now it says bank is equal to Federal Bank because we want the value against Federal Bank. So comma separated. We can have any set of column name value we can have in this formula. And next condition is month's date. So month of this date is printed as column headers. So month date is 2. 2 is nothing but February, second month. So I'll show you this month date. So if I right click and show field, see month's date is printed as a column. So day's date, the day is not printed. I have excluded that. So month's date is printed against column and bank name is displayed as rows. So that is why in my formula contains months of date. So the month number is the condition. So second one. So now if I want to print the total, so what it will print? So this 59, this value. If I want to print the grand total of the pivot table, by equate and click on this cell, see the formula. No conditions like that. It's saying GETPIVOTDATA amount $F is the location of the pivot table. So we are referring only the pivot table. So it will print the grand total. But if I create a formula against this total against a row, so now the formula looks like it prints the grand total. So the formula is that the reference of the field to be printed amount and the location of the pivot table, and then bank is HSBC. There is no month specified. So it will sum up, it will print the row total of HSBC bank, that is 57,129. See, and if I create a formula using the column total, it prints the column total. And let us see the formula. So GETPIVOTDATA amount, it is the amount field, $5 is the location of the pivot table, and month's date is 11 and bank name is not specified. So against month 11, that is November, it will show the column total. So that is what it is showing. So that is how all this formula works. So we'll delete this formula except this. Now let us copy the formula, GETPIVOTDATA, this formula, and paste it here so that we will edit this formula to read bank name from this drop down list from cell B1 and month name from cell B2. So bank, Federal Bank. So I will delete this value, Federal Bank, and click on this cell, give absolute reference pressing F4. So Federal Bank I have given. Now month's date is 2. So instead of this 2, I will click on B2, the value from the drop down. B2, I will say absolute reference. Now I will say date value function to convert this into a date value. Ampersand, I will add a date first of a month, date value, and say from this date value, I will say month number. month number is month of that date. So month of that date in against cell B2 compared with month's date, the column header. Let us see how it works. So it printed 3283. Say Federal Bank 3283. So if I want to print the March one, I will just change that value and drop down to March. So 4956, which is correct. Now I want to show Punjab National Bank. It should print 2446. So for March, Punjab National Bank 2446446. So it is working. So now if I delete this, let me remove this formula. So if I delete any of it will show error. If this, it will show error. If I delete the bank, it will show error. So now we have to modify this formula to print month total if bank name is missing, and bank row total if month name is missing, and the grand total of the pivot table if both bank and month name is not there. Let us now edit this formula and replace it with the ifs function. To save time, I'm pasting this. So it's an ifs function which has multiple get pivot data formula. So first one is B1 is equal to blank and B2 is equal to blank. So that means if bank and month name are blank, get pivot data with just the reference of the amount, the column name and the pivot table location. It prints the grand total if both are empty. And next condition, if it is true, this will be executed and it will exit the ifs condition. If this is not true, then it will check this condition. Next condition is if B1 is equal to blank, means bank name is blank but B2 is not equal to blank, means B2 means month name is there, bank name is not there, then get pivot data, month's date and the formula which I printed earlier. So date value, so it will print the column total of the specified month. And the third condition is if bank name is not null but month name is null, then it should print the row total of the specified bank. So that is what is here. So the identification of the column to be printed and the location of the pivot table, and bank is equal to the value in cell B1. And if none of the conditions are satisfied, that means if both bank name and month name are specified. So that is why as per the ifs formula, the default value we have to give as true. And then if none of these conditions are satisfied, it will execute this formula. So there we are specifying both the conditions which I had shown you earlier. So that amount column, then the location of the pivot table, the bank is equal to the value in B1 cell and the month's date is equal to the month number corresponding to the month name printed in specified in cell B2. So let us see how it works. So now it's showing 2446 Punjab National Bank and March. And if I change to Federal Bank, it works same thing. So if I remove Federal Bank, then it prints 23,749 against March. So let us see. So March total is 23,749. Okay. So now I change it to April. So April total is 51,434. April is 51,434. Now if I specify Federal Bank and delete month name, it prints 47,210. That means against Federal Bank, the row total it will print. Row total 47,210. 47,210 it printed. Now if I change the bank to SBI Bank, 52,676. SBI Bank 52,676. Now if I remove both bank name and this one, it prints 59,3914, which is the grand total of the pivot table. I will show you the formula once again. That's it for now. Thanks for watching this video. Please click on like button if you find the information I shared useful, and update comments. Also, please subscribe to my channel to get notified about new videos which I will post in future.